Hi, Tim. How are you today?
Hi, Michael. I'm well. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I have to say, this is an absolute pleasure for me. I wanted to touch on your personal motto that you kind of brought up in a different interview, where you said you really seek out filmmakers, where you don't end up creating kind of cookie cutter films.
Well, this is going to sound egotistical, and it's actually the opposite. If somebody wants me for the lead in a movie, um, it's not going to be a cookie cutter movie because I'm not a natural choice for a lead in a film. I'm just not. That's um, uh, and I never imagined I would be, and it's not the sort of career that I um, even pursued. I'm a character actor.
Just a funny little follow up to that, too, because, you know, part of that interview as well, you had talked about how you almost turned down "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou"
Right.
and Minority Report as well. What was it about? Again, was that something for you as a performer? Because you had to have known the Coens or Spielberg were definitely not going to give you a cookie cutter film.
Well, it was different. With each part, it was a little different. But with filmmakers of that level and that eclat, um, it's almost worse to disappoint them. And what worried me about Oh Brother was that I just wasn't gonna be able to inhabit that character in a believable and three-dimensional way, even in the context of their extreme, almost cartoon aesthetic. I just worried that I wouldn't hold my own. And I knew that George and Turturro had already been cast. And my first question was, why aren't you casting Steve Buscemi? And Joel was funny, and he said, everybody keeps asking us that. And I said, well, add me to the list. And he said, it's that's just not the direction we want to go in this one. And I had to think about it. There was a reason they cast me that that had nothing to do with me. Part of it was that they didn't want a movie star in that role. And you're saying, why would they not want a movie star in that role? And certainly the studio was saying that. They knew that they were going to be doing a lot of three shots and then singles on George. And they didn't want to put an actor in the role of Delmar who would be saying, well, wait a minute, what about my close-up? And they knew that Turturro wouldn't have any issues with that. And just to make sure that there wouldn't be an issue in the part of Delmar, they said, let's cast somebody who's relatively unknown. And I was already friends with Joel and somewhat with Ethan, but Joel and I were already pretty good friends. And he just said, will you do this? The last thing I wanted to do was show up and have him regret that decision.
Well, I don't think he regrets it at this point, nor do audiences. I really liked that you touched on, the three shot, because you've also brought up in the past that you always kind of wanted to be the guy next to the guy. You never wanted to be the guy. Like you had just mentioned, you never wanted to be the lead. Do you have to be selfless even when you're in the lead? Do you have to give it to the other guy, the scene or the energy every single time?
That depends on the movie, I guess. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've seldom been given leads. I'm not used to it. I come at every role as a character actor, not a leading man. And the leading men I most admire are character actors who've been able to bring the sensibility and specificity that are wrapped up in playing character parts and supporting roles to leading parts. And I'm thinking of people like Sean Penn, Daniel Day-Lewis, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Steve Buscemi, Turturro. These are actors. They're not guys who swan around a set saying, I'm the reason this movie is being made, even when sometimes that's actually the truth. Certainly with Daniel and Sean. that's kind of my own ethos as an actor, because I've had the luxury of working with those guys, and I've watched how they conduct themselves, and it is characterized more by generosity than showboating.
You've kind of brought up the archetypes and things like this. It's a really interesting thing that I don't think a lot of people know about you, that you studied the classics in college. You directed the criminally underrated O in 2001. It was my generation of film, the early 2000s. You even had a small part in Michael Almereda's Hamlet. Yeah, around that time as well. And even though you may not have too many strict cookie cutter Westerns under your belt, you definitely have a lot of Western adjacent films, and films that seemingly even bridge the gap between something like Shakespeare and Westerns. And I'm curious, because you've studied this stuff, do you consider the Western to be kind of the modern equivalent of, classic Odysseys or classic theater in American film?
Yeah, I mean, I've never thought about it before, but I do. What the Western most shares with classical tragedy is that every play by, say, Sophocles, the greatest tragedian, examines the relationship either between man and the gods or man and the state. And the hubristic protagonist in classical theater is always faulted for getting beyond him or herself, because, to his credit, Sophocles gave us Antigone. So, we stepped back by making all our heroes men for so many centuries, when Sophocles had already done it, made women tragic heroes. And the Western hero is also usually a hubristic individual who in the best Westerns is going to have some version of his comeuppance. And also the Western always examines the relationship between the individual and forces that are larger than him or her, whether it's the law or the railroad, the railroad company that wants to tame the land, and the Western hero doesn't want that, or Native Americans, what have you. And so I think I've never thought about it before, but I think there is that connection. In classical literature, the hero often does not get to ride off into the sunset, however. He's going to end up gouging his own eyes out. So that's a different take. I am going to do a movie. I'm working with a director who's written a wonderful Western based on the Iliad that I hope to do in the next year or two, and that's going to be pretty interesting.
Our time's up, unfortunately. I wanted to ask you to defend the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, because I'm the #1 Hulk fan out there, and I just wanted to hear your opinion about why it's the greatest Marvel film, created, in my humble opinion. But I'm afraid we'll have to wait until next time for that. So,
yeah.
Thanks so much, Tim. Appreciate your time, and all the best.
All right. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also, click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.